Welcome to the Two White Men podcast. I'm Ian, or that ginger that yells about cards.
And I'm Patrick.
And today we're going to talk about the wild topic of what happens when a player crosses the register and becomes a worker. So through my time both working here and previous establishments that I have worked at, you have always been one of the more opinionated players. And I'm saying opinionated instead of other words. but you and I have had quiet conversations and loud conversations in stores, in Magic Noodle parking lots, about what players need from a store. What should stores really focus on? Should stores prioritize the players or prioritize what's best for the store? Is that maybe the same thing? But what I'm interested in, and I bet most people are interested in, is just start generally. What's different in terms of your perspective of card games, both tournaments, product, companies, now that you've, so to speak, crossed the line into the retail worker space?
Well, there's a lot of stuff that you don't think about. Obviously, you're not concerned with the way the business runs as a consumer, right? Like a lot of the time when so predominantly I play a lot of Magic. I play a little bit of One Piece, but mostly Magic. And with a lot of Magic players, it's basically like what they can get when they go out to an event. Yeah. They're more concerned with prizing, turnout, like how much they can win, where they can get the best product. Like that's kind of, as a player, that's your concern.
Value.
Yes. Yeah, it's the magic word is value.
Magic word's value.
So where can I go and play and get the most value? And there's a lot of stuff that you don't really think about as a player concerning what the parameters of a store are, what the limitations of a store are, how much like product they can be dishing out, whether that be through like allocation. Episode 1, you guys talked about like allocation and stuff, maintaining product, keeping it on the shelves, that kind of stuff. Obviously, that's not the kind of stuff that a consumer really thinks about. Yeah. We're really just concerned about like, where do I get my stuff? Which event do I go to that kind of nets me the best turnout? And it's unfortunate to say it that way because that shouldn't really be the way that a healthy community. Not to say that the Magic community is an unhealthy community, but there are different communities that are a little bit more driven towards supporting a local store in a way that's healthier to them and to the store. Not all card game communities are that way. Yeah. And that's something that I've learned, after hopping the fence on this side of things. Because obviously, if you don't play a card game as a consumer, you don't really know what the community is like, you don't know how product is like, you don't know how hard it is to get certain product, you don't know how hard it is to keep stocked on a certain product, you don't know how tournaments work, etc. So on that end of things, it's hard to kind of, know what goes on, but once you hop over and you kind of learn about all of the hurdles of like, hosting events, getting product, yada yada, it's an eye-opening experience for sure. There's a lot of stuff that I really just did not think about. Yeah.
I'll start off from the perspective of, I did not play a lot of competitive Magic. Most of my experience with competitive Magic is running the events. And what I've learned in my very short time so far in this industry is that you have to be passionate about growing competitive Magic or competitive card games in general for the sake of growing it, not for the sake of a profit margin, not for the sake of, we're going to run this event to make a bunch of money. Because most of the time when you run these events, like you touched on, players are coming here to pay their $10 and hopefully come out with more than $10. When you think of it, if you're not passionate about just the growth and passionate about creating that space for people to come and play, it's very, very easy to become very jaded towards the players. Like, they're just coming here to farm. They're coming to take advantage of our prizing, or take advantage of our generosity. It's very easy to be anti-player, and unfortunately, some places, wherever, I see how it would be very easy to go down the path of, why would I even host competitive Magic if they're not going to do anything for me? That's not a point of view that I agree with. It's a point of view I could see where somebody would get there, but it's very easy, in my opinion, to become very jaded towards the players if you're just thinking of it from a retail perspective.
So, there's like the saying of like support your local game store is something that gets thrown around a lot. There are big Magic creators, for example, that are constantly pushing that message.
Very much so.
And yeah, to a certain extent, yes. As a consumer, you need to understand that you cannot just consume and not give anything back, because that store is there. Yes, it's a business. Yes, it's there to make money to some extent, but that store can't thrive if it doesn't have, like, you are the life's blood of the store. You are here to like consume. You are here like, so when you're talking about these players that come in and don't buy anything, or that again touched on in episode 1, where like players that come in, sit, do nothing, and then leave. There's a sweet spot though, because back then we were talking about if a 12-year-old comes in and just wants to play and whatever and may not have the disposable income to buy stuff.
Yep.
That's fine. You would rather them be here, enjoying themselves than out else somewhere else. But I think it's hard to maintain that same understanding when it's a different demographic of player that comes in to play the game.
Yeah.
Like, are you going to treat a 12-year-old and a 35-year-old the same way? Like, if they come in, if a 12-year-old comes in, they don't have disposable income, whatever, and they're sitting at the store and they're taking up your time, that's fine. I'd love seeing them here. Like, having the game, grow, regardless of what game it is, having it grow and like fostering a community is why this store is open, right? So sometimes it gets a little muddled when we're kind of like, we have to keep that mentality for everybody. Yes, there are certain people that come into the store just to shark events.
Yeah.
That's just part of the nature of TCGs, though. Yes, some TCGs will have it a little bit more than others.
Yeah.
But it's evident and real across the board.
Here's my question for you.
Yeah.
Tying back to the topic of the whole thing. Have on this topic specifically, the running these events, the spirit of them, have your views on it changed at all since becoming someone who's actually, instead of playing it, might run one? Or you see what goes into it, or you see the fact that, like in our case, we give all of the prizing back? Has any of your point of view changed, or has it just stayed?
Yeah, for sure. Like, there's specifically like pricing. So it's really hard. Like, it wasn't even like a secondary thought. Again, as a consumer, you don't really think about this stuff.
Yeah.
The idea of, well, I'm coming to pay $10 to play in this event.
Yeah.
I want the pricing to be good. But there's only so much pricing to go around. Like, if 10 people show up and they each give $10, that's $100 maximum in the pot, and that means the store makes no money.
Yep.
So, and for most events, that's just how it's structured. Like, there are very, very few stores will take a cut off the top, because what happens is, if you do, the pricing doesn't reflect adequate pricing. If I have a positive winning record, I should not leave, in my opinion, this is just my 2 cents. If I have a positive winning record, and this could be like my Magic's, this is my consumer side speaking, I shouldn't be leaving a store with what I put in. Yeah. Like, if I show up and I pay $10 and I go 2-1 in a 3-round event and I leave with $10 of credit, that doesn't feel very good.
Yeah.
What was the point?
What was the point?
I could have just
saved that $10.
I could have just tested at home or played Arena.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I've spent 3 hours doing so, right? So that's why, like, again, now that I'm on this side of things, it's I try my best to try and skew the pricing, and what that means is, the person that comes in first that doesn't drop a single match, will not be making, like, it's not top heavy. They won't be making like an exuberant amount of prize. Obviously, they'll be making at least twice as much as what they put in. But if you want to prize everybody with a winning record adequately and fairly, then you kind of have to spread it down. In my opinion, you have to spread it down.
And the one thing I noticed, and I'll give this is me giving credit to the players, it doesn't take much to make them content with it. Like most of the time, if you put in 10, you go 2-1. If you get $15 credit, you're happy. That's 50. That's your 50% up.
1.5 times is fine. Yeah.
It's just adequate. Like I personally, it took me a while to understand in many conversations, because when you're working and you're trying to balance out all your stock, you're worried about keeping the lights on, making the money, and you have this group coming in here seemingly saying give. It's not actually what they're saying, but it does come off that way a lot. It's like, we are doing this, we expect this. It can be a little, not demoralizing, but a little hard.
Sure. Yes.
So to want to want to accommodate. But once you realize what they represent as a community and what they represent for your store, you absolutely, every time I would try to accommodate them.
Well, that's kind of the thing that we need to remember as people who, you know, work at a store, is that just because somebody, like, the optics are also important. Just because somebody doesn't come in and buy something does not necessarily mean that it's a loss, right? Like, if you run an event and there's a full store and people are like playing and whatever and everyone's like having a good time, even if 50% of the people that come in don't buy something, the other 50% of people might look at the store and be like, hey, this looks like a place with, you know, a good turnout, a good time, it's a good vibe or whatever, and they may come back. And that might produce, you know, recurring business type of thing.
There's been countless times where just, whether it's a player that just was late for the event and couldn't participate, or somebody that just walked in, I'd sit here and just shoot it with them, just chat with them 30, 45, sometimes an hour. They don't buy anything, but they've had that positive experience at the place, and I wasn't even trying to foster a positive experience. I was talking to them like a person. And then they come back and they become a customer and be like them, or maybe they don't. But no matter what, you put the foot forward, whether it's one person or an entire community, to try to foster it. Mostly in this conversation, I've played a little devil's advocate with the perspective of stores and how stores can see it negatively. But for the most part, I don't understand why any place wouldn't want to build any community. Because like you're not losing money and you're filling the store with people. And even if one of those people, only one person bought something, that's still one more sale than you had not running the event.
There's also the idea of like, okay, well, if you stop running that event and you don't fill it with anything, what exactly have you done?
It's a waste.
If you're not filling the time slot that you were going to use to run a specific event, it's downtime. You're not making, like, if you're concerned about making money, you're still not making money. Your optics look worse. You're not, like, the store's not full. And, you know, even if somebody comes and plays and buys a chocolate bar, that's still better than, you know, not making any income whatsoever. So if you're concerned on the money financial side of things, then it's always better to have people in your seats than it is not to, right? And there's another thing that, you know, obviously most store owners know this, but I think it's easier to forget this aspect, is that if you don't run the events, you will not get better allocation for product later down the road.
100%.
So if you get upset about, like, oh, well, the players that come in just want, you know, credit and value and product and whatever, and then you're like, oh, well, I don't want to, you know, if you stop running the events, or you turn down how many events you run or whatever, that's not beneficial for you at all. Like, yes, understandably, you might not make money on that event. You're not going to. Events are loss leaders. They've always been loss leaders.
It's kind of funny. It's almost as if you crossing the line into retail worker at a store has almost vindicated the position you already had. Because now you see that on our end, it also makes sense to run those events and build that community, because it only benefits us, whether it's promo packs or actual just product.
Right. Like when I was having this conversation on the other end of things, I was just kind of pushing for the events to be run because I wanted to play in them. But now I'm pushing for the events to be run because it's a net positive. There's no real negative into running an event, other than a slight loss of some events do lose money, quote unquote lose money. But that's strictly for the event specifically. If the event lost $10, but one person came in and bought a pack of sleeves, or a chocolate bar, or a water bottle, two people bought there's the money that you lose on the event, you're most likely going to make back at least some of it elsewhere. So that's one thing. But also, again, if you don't run the events, you will not get allocation from the companies that produce these cards. If they show that some companies expect you to, you know, report tournaments, outcomes, how many players you had. They keep track of those things. So if you don't run events, if you're not kind of following what they expect of you, then obviously you end up losing out. So there's no real, other than just being vindictive, there's no real reason to cut an event off of your roster if you don't have something to replace it with. Or if you don't have some like crazy miracle thing that you think is going to make way more money, just run the event.
What do you like the most about working in a store now? The most, other than the obvious that I think you might say. of you get to be a goblin and whatever you want, you can have first dibs on.
Well, it's the same. I mean, obviously that's one of the things, right? Like it's the benefits of working anywhere means that you get first access to things that place sells.
I make the joke all the time that every day I go, oh,
yeah,
no.
Well, I mean, when I first started here, that was something that I was a little excited about because it was a question of like, oh, cool, like there will always be a place where I can at least try and get you know my fix.
Yeah.
But
we all need our fix.
Yeah, exactly. But after a few months, like you end up realizing that, like, obviously, I need to put, as a consumer, my needs secondary to the mass population of like our like community, right?
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, we have a set of a new product that comes out.
Yep.
Allocation with new sets are always kind of iffy. You don't know how much you're getting. You don't know how much like you can hold on to, and obviously you have a player base that you would like to cater to, a loyal one that wants to come back. So obviously, if we I now have to obviously I have to wait until we cater to our player base before kind of dipping my hands into the pot, which I'm fine with. I'm much happier at this point in time. I'm much happier seeing like one of our patrons come in and like buy a brand new product, open it up, open some crazy card that's either worth a lot or something that they really wanted to open.
Yeah.
Like for example, in Magic, like they open a commander that they really wanted to build or whatever. Seeing that kind of happiness, that kind of like gratification when they open their product is nice. That's obviously that's not something that I see on the other side of things. So like here, it's nice.
Yeah, and pulling back the curtain a little bit, which is what this is for. You guys get, well, I do too, but mainly you and the other employees get a very good deal of essentially one of each item, one of each individual barcode at cost, if there's tax plus tax. But we do, of course, harkening back to what you're talking about, which is you really want the good stuff to go to the people. Yeah. We do limit you guys on like collector bundles. Or premium stuff. Like if we're gonna get 4 of an ETB for a Pokemon set, which is a very real number, Prismatic Evolutions, cough, cough.
Yeah.
I made the decision that I'm not gonna get any, no matter how much I want it to open.
Yeah.
And if I'm not getting any, respectfully,
I'm not getting any.
You're not getting any.
Yeah, fair enough.
And it's because at the end of the day, I feel like whether it's you, Slava, or our other employees, I think we all realize and we're on the same page of you. Everyone knows the feeling of going to that card store with the mindset of, I'm going to get this thing, it's fresh, it's new, and you go in, and it's like the product never existed.
Yeah.
It's not, it's poofed.
Yeah.
And magically, I've gone into a card store, asked for the gift bundle of that set, they said it was sold out, and I saw an employee opening one in the corner.
Yeah.
That sucks. I understand, like it's your birthright, I guess, for working in a store. You can open it, but like it feels like crap.
It doesn't feel very good, especially as a consumer when you walk in and you're really excited about a certain product.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, obviously, there's a gradient of players and consumers that come into a store. Some of them are more concerned with making money off of the product, so they buy, they flip later on. Other players genuinely like the product, they want to come in. Obviously, as a storekeep, it's hard to tell who's who, so you just really want to give the product out to whoever would like it, right? That's what we're here for. Yeah. We're here to give that product out. So, there's a certain sense of satisfaction when you see somebody come in and buy the product that they were really looking forward to get.
It's really interesting because most players, because part of why we started this whole show is because I get asked regularly, what's it like having the store? You get to open everything. No,
it's pretty neat.
It's pretty neat. Like most players, like, I'd open a store, I'd open everything. I'm like,
then you'd be closed.
Then you'd be closed.
Not even.
And eventually, just like other things, when it gives you serotonin, and you have free access to it, and you do it over and over and over and over again, it loses its luster.
Yeah.
It's not like you can't sit here and just open product. Even if you're paying for it, you'll get bored.
Yeah.
Like eventually, it does just get boring. Like that's one of the main things like that I would expect some people. It changed with me. I know for a fact. I used to love opening stuff. Now, every so often, I get a little like I said, but opening stuff becomes a chore. Like if you told me 4 years ago that I get to sit here and open 4 boxes of a new Magic set so the store can have singles, I'd be excited. I get to crack how many packs?
Yeah.
But now it's a chore. It's, crap. I gotta sit in the corner for 3 hours and open all these packs and sort all these cards.
I think the opening is still. No, I disagree. I think maybe I haven't been here long enough, but I think the opening is still kind of a. It still has kind of a luster. It still has magic. It's sorting the cards that afterwards. Yeah. It's like it's like Christmas morning when you open all the gifts and then you have to clean up all of the wrapping paper.
You know, if your dad walking around with the garbage bag, like you get your first gift, and he's like,
yeah, it's the aftermath of opening all the stuff that is kind of like, well, that's part of the job, right? You're running a store. A lot of product sold isn't necessarily just the sealed stuff or the big rares. A lot of it's just the commons and uncommons, the chaff that people have. It's hard to come by. I know for a fact because again I played Magic for so long. Specifically recently, the standard format in Magic has gotten very popular.
Yep.
So there are a lot of cards that are uncommons and commons that are like $6, $7, $8 a pop that are hard to find because either certain places don't have them on their websites or don't bother sorting them and putting up on their websites. People don't trade them in, and the format is very, very popular. So the supply and demand scale there is skewed pretty heavily. So yeah, it's part of the job, but it's an important part of the job. That sorting aspect.
The key to that though, and this is coming from the manager, is you get other people to do it. That's
I'm other people, in case any of you were wondering.
Hidden key alert, you do it. So essentially it's become, sometimes I sort. I alphabetize their whole thing. I grind out the sorting sometimes, but it's way more fun to go, hey, Anthony.
Anthony, if you're seeing this, you're sorting every card ever.
Every card ever is your responsibility. He already did it. I opened Aether Drift and he just did it. But he loves it. He's like la 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 sort. I'm like, okay, I'll do the base sorting. Then here you go, buddy.
Yeah.
That's the trade-off.
To be fair, I can't really bad talk sorting too much. I used to do it for free.
Now you get paid for it.
And well, it's not just that. Like I used to do it for free, but also I didn't hate doing it.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of a therapeutic thing. You gotta just sit down, turn your brain off, sort some stuff, maybe have something play in the background.
I have an answer to this question.
Okay.
And I want to know yours.
Okay.
I don't know if you've had enough time here or enough contact, but it's still worth your perspective. Has your perspective on how specific companies function changed at all? Because I know it has a little bit for me.
I think you would have a better. I think your answer might be a little bit more charged with this because you and Slava really are responsible to communicate with them.
I communicate with them, but
so you have that frontline communication with them. Having said that, I obviously get the trickle down from what happens between the two.
You witness us pulling our hair, throwing pens at the computer, screaming, or having a nice conversation, maybe.
I think this is part of every business ever. I think when a business has multiple moving parts, keeping in contact with every single one of those moving parts becomes difficult.
Yeah.
It's not always a walk in the park. It's not always easy. Sometimes things get delayed. Mm-hmm. Some things just don't show up on time, which puts us in a sweat because if we're running an event and we don't have the cards for the event, that kind of that gets stressful. But obviously, this is another thing that you don't think about as a consumer. Mm-hmm. You see it on the other side of things. So obviously, you get a different perspective of how these places run and what they prioritize, because it's a big thing that you don't see on the other side of things. But I mean, it's not a huge. Some of it is surprising, but overall, I don't think it's massively surprising because they're also a business trying to run their stuff. It does surprise me sometimes. There are certain companies that I will not name, but there are companies that expect you to perform at a certain level without giving you the tools to perform at that level.
Yep.
So then it comes down to whether or not, and again, touched on in episode 1, they want to see whether or not you can flourish before investing in you. Yeah. But on the other side of things, how much of it can I, how efficiently can I flourish when you're not giving me anything to work with?
Exactly. And now I'll say my point. For forever, I was a Yu-Gi-Oh player. It was always, Konami, And then I started playing more Magic, and it was always Wizards of the Coast, WotC, Hasbro. Right. Now, from having understanding how the industry works, having direct lines of communication with them, I get it. I will name names. WotC, Wizards of the Coast, some of the most helpful people. Like when there's something wrong, you have a question, I call them. They're in a different time zone, and at least by the next day, I'll get a call back.
Yeah.
It's like as a player, it's very easy to go, hey, this company's not doing what I want them to do in this game. They're printing Spider-Man Magic cards. They're doing A, they're doing B. Spider-Man as an example. I don't like them. I don't agree with them. They're a bad company. It's like it happens so much, where recency bias examples A, B, C, D, or maybe past examples of A, B, C, D happen, and they're like, oh, this game's going to crap. This game's going downhill. But from my perspective, just like you said, they're a business that's following trends of their business. If this stuff wasn't working, they wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
And from personally communicating with them, they're not forcing anything on you. They're not forcing anything down the consumer's throats. They're just producing a product. Buy it or don't. We're getting to the point where something will be for everybody. But from talking with them, they are very helpful. And this goes past Wizards of the Coast. But I just will reference them specifically because I've talked to them recently. They are very helpful, very pro-store, and they want to help you build, which is, again, more than what some other games will do. I won't name those ones. But there are also the situations where we get sent, here's your tournament starting kit, here's your promos, here's your stuff, and we run out of it in a couple weeks doing it normally. And then you go back asking for more, and they're like, no, you have to wait. And I don't appreciate that stuff. I get it to a degree. I kind of understand. But when we get to the point where I can't stock your product because it's so in demand, and you're not providing me the promo support, what would you like me to do? Because players have to play for something, especially if we're one of the few games that doesn't let you prize store credit or money. What would you have me do? How do I foster the community if my hands are tied?
Yeah.
It gets like
IOUs for packs, like.
Well, you give out IOUs and you never get packs. I'm against IOUs for promo packs, because once you get in the hole, you never dig yourself out until you're huge. Like once you're in your hole, you're gonna run out of the packs every time you stock them, and then you're perpetually in an IOU.
Yeah.
So those are the perspectives, both good and bad, that I've had. Sometimes I've thought negatively about a company until I started working with them, and then they're great. Sometimes I thought a company is great, and then they surprised me.
Yeah, it's hard to kind of get a full. Things like are definitely a lot different and change drastically when you hop over the fence and you see how these companies work and what they prioritize and what they don't.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like I've worked in a few different businesses, retail and otherwise, and at the end of the day, whenever a business is run on multiple moving parts, there's going to be there's going to be a lack of grease in the gears somewhere.
Yeah.
There's going to be a miscommunication. There's going to be these are all things that just need to be worked on. Yeah. Obviously, some companies are more willing to kind of be helpful with that. Yeah. And streamline the process. Yeah. But I mean, we can't control what they do, right? So as a company, as a store, as a place that has to cater to, our player base, we just have to do what we can do in order to maintain the happiness of our player base, so that when we do get product or whatever it is that we're missing from that company, then we can kind of go through there.
Yeah, and I guess as like a final little question I have for you, it's a lighthearted one. Has working here affected your desire to play the game at all?
Not negatively.
Not negatively. Has it made you want to play more?
Yeah, issue, but that's the catch-22, right? Is that I now want to play more, but I don't have the time to because I have to run. Sometimes I run the events, sometimes I whatever.
Sometimes we pay you to play Commander.
Yeah. I can't.
Sometimes it's good.
Can't be mad at that. Actually, prime example last week where we had our One Piece weekly. Yep. That I filled in to round out the numbers. I had a lot of fun.
Yep. And you're getting paid X amount of money to sling cardboard.
Well, I mean, yeah, but mainly to
create ambiance,
to maintain the
set
event.
the vibe of the room.
Yeah, that's the one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, definitely. There's like being here and being, you know, in the environment where there's people playing cards all the time.
Yeah.
Does not take away my desire to play cards, and it does the opposite actually. It entices me to want to play more.
And I guess I'll quickly touch on it myself. For me, it's very, very week to week. If I have had to yell at people over the phone in the morning, I don't want to play card games at night. If I just did 10 hours here doing stuff, I'm not going to stay back and play. Sometimes I do. I closer to when we started, I did a lot more than now. I don't have no desire to play the game. I have a lot of desire to play the game, but and this is a topic we'll touch on in another episode. Commander, for example, I very rarely will feel like working 9 to 10 hours and sit down in a pod of fresh people who are all trying to ruin my day. I love them all. I love all of our players, but you'll sit in a game. And they're there to counter your spells, mill your deck, destroy your creatures,
tax your spells,
and it's always fun to mess with the shopkeep. But we'll leave that for next week. I believe we're pretty tapped out on this topic.